Can the world of League of Legends survive Warhammer 40k? I am going to need your biggest hear me out on this. You're probably already thinking, how can a fantasy world with people still carrying around swords and axes stand up against anything in the world of 40k? I think that the people of Runeterra do not have the ability to space travel or have the numbers to conquer all the factions in the 40k universe. I do think that as a planet, they are probably the most well defended if you put them in the 40k universe. We're going to start slow, comparing the weakest creatures or people that either factions have to offer, and then slowly start adding up to the scales and getting more and more powerful to the point of ridiculousness. I think I am pretty qualified to talk about pinning these two factions together since I have pretty good knowledge about both worlds. 40k, though, is absolutely huge with hundreds and hundreds of books in their library. But even so, I think that the knowledge that I do have about it are pretty valid to be able to make such a statement as I am. Now, before we're going to start, I have a couple of rules that I'm going to be using for this fight in order to make it seemingly fair. Mages from League and Psykers from the 40k universe are seen as the same thing, magical people. No definitive numbers are named, so there will be a lot of speculation when it comes to comparing one thing versus the other in both universes. We're only going to be using creatures that have effect on the material world or the real world. Different planes of existence will remain separated from each other. So the warp and the death realm have no effect on one another or the fight that we are going to have. I will only be talking about the armies of the Imperium of 40k, since that's the one I have the most knowledge of, and that's the one that people are the most interested in. But real big shots like the 4 Chaos Gods will have a moment of being mentioned. Speaking of gods, we're only going to allow the gods to be able to interact with the people from their own universe. That way there can't be weird demon deals from the 4 Chaos Gods, and Kindred, the god of death from League of Legends, cannot one-tap everybody with an arrow. Got it? Got it. So what is the backbone of the Imperial Army? What is the unit that they just spam to death? The Imperial Guardsmen. Imperial Guardsmen are regular humans, incredibly well trained, and armed with something called a lance rifle. A weapon so strong that it is able to shoot through concrete, and still within the 40k universe, it is seen as one of the weakest weapons. Meanwhile, the people of Runeterra have some armored fellas with axes and swords. This isn't starting well for them. Regular foot soldiers from the world of Runeterra would get absolutely decimated. There is no doubt about that. But they do have some factions that are able to somewhat withstand them. I'm thinking about a place called the Shadow Isles, an island that is encroached in black, dark mist that as soon as somebody disappears into it, they never return again. The Shadow Isle separates the border between the material realm and the spirit realm, so ghosts and spirits are able to access through it, but not travel to the rest of the world. Neither can the spirits really be killed, that we know of. And another faction that is able to withstand regular guardsmen would be Piltover and Zon. If you've seen Arcane, you know that they are really advanced in terms of mixing magic and technology together. If you've seen Arcane, you've seen that they are quite technologically advanced, even being able to do things like teleportation. If you look at the card game, you can see that they have all kinds of firearms and definitely have capabilities of firing back if they really need to. Now, how would the Imperium of Man respond to these two threats? Actually very simple. Piltover, just throw a million guardsmen at them. Overwhelm them with numbers until they all just fall and die. The Shadow Isles is a little bit weird. They will likely try to carpet bomb it, and if that fails, they're going to ignore it for now, because for a worldwide siege, there are just regions that they can ignore for a while until they wipe out all the others. So what about League's heavy hitters? What about the actual champions? Could they face huge numbers and be able to wipe them all out? Well, on the low end, a lot of them will die. If you think about the crew from Arcane, or Draven, Darius, Akali, all these other ones, they will just die. So what about creatures like the Darkin? Aatrox, Neferi, Varus, a fully awakened Rost if he finally is able to take over Kayn, and some other undisclosed fifth Darkin that we don't know about. Even if they do get overwhelmed by Lastfire, a simple guardsman needs to simply pick up the weapon, either for glory or to secure what they have found, turn back into a Darkin, who then immediately starts slaughtering again. With the Darkin weapon, by the way, for 40k people, think about how Lucius the Eternal works, and just bump the process speed up to 11, like it can instantly happen. The weapons of the Darkin are actually the Darkin themselves, trapped within these weapons, and nothing within Runeterra has been able to actually destroy them, so you can debate about whether anything in the 40k universe is able to do it, but if we assume lore-wise they are indestructible, they are indestructible. So if regular guardsmen aren't able to do it anymore, what is the next best thing that they are going to send? The Space Marines. The Angels of the Emperor. How would they be able to fight against something like the Darkin? If you look at how Aatrox is often portrayed in terms of size in the League universe, he is pretty fucking huge. So battling a single Space Marine in 1v1 scenarios, I would give it to Aatrox. But Space Marines usually do not work alone. A squad of 5 Space Marines could surround Aatrox and with proper teamwork be able to take him down, get the weapon without touching it, and get rid of that threat from Runeterra. And lore-wise, most of the Darkin don't really like working together, so them getting singled out and then destroyed by different Space Marine squadrons is pretty believable. Now, in terms of other melee fights, there are a bunch of champions from League of Legends that could be able to hold a proper fight, but there is one big issue that they will always face, and that is getting a bolter to the face. Think about Yasuo, for example. A swordsman that can use a wind technique that is seen as super deadly, and he's able to cast fucking tornadoes with it. Bolter to the face and he's dead. If his wind wall is on cooldown, he can't do anything. You also have Tryndamere, who is often literally too angry to die, constantly fighting death itself in order to stay alive. There's also the honorable mention of Olaf, who is technically immortal since his fate has told him that he is going to die of old age. So he could solo everything, but that seems kind of unfair, so let's just rule him out on this one. There are also mages like Lux who can fire big fuck-off Kamehameha waves that are likely able to destroy Space Marines and even a lot of vehicles that they have. But for all of those champions, if they get shot in the head, it's over. And it's pretty easy for a Space Marine to shoot them in the head. So do we have a champion that is able to tank bolter fire? Or perhaps dodge it? Yes, we do. Master Yi. This quick motherfucker has a sword technique called Wuju, which is so fast that he literally disappears into only light flashes of his sword. That way he was able to 1v1 armies in such a huge bloodbath it would make Core Knight Berserkers blush. He is so massively OP in the lore that even above Space Marine, something like a Custodian is not quick enough to face him. He is literally so fast that it looks like he can teleport. If you've played League of Legends and you've seen Master Yi or played him, his Q ability, that is lore accurate. That is how it works with him. So what the fuck is able to stand against something like that? A Psyker. A Psyker with magical abilities can be able to tap into the mind of Master Yi and explode his head. He just simply needs to be able to see him at some point. And Master Yi would not see something like this coming. So there should be a way for him to negate magical effects, which in the world of League, it exists. In the region of Demacia, there is this stone-like, wood-like material called petricite that Demacians use in order to make their weapons, armor, buildings, and a whole lot more. This material is able to nullify and absorb magic. So against something like a Psyker, this would work perfectly. But Master Yi, unfortunately, is on the whole other side of the world. There's no way for him during a world invasion to travel all the way across the opposite end, get material and armor made specifically for him, and then be able to fight all of them without engaging any enemies that could have a Psyker in there. So do we have a champion in Demacia that uses Petricite and is either quick or tough enough to stand up against something like Space Marines or Custodians? Yes, Gallo, a 24-meter tall gargoyle gargantuan that has had centuries of absorbing magic around him, making him an absolute fucking powerhouse against anything standing against him. With his height and armor, the only things that would be able to try fighting against him would be Imperial Knights that are at around the same height as he is, or something like Baneblade Bombardment. So from this point, it slowly starts to become more of a dick measuring contest between League of Legends and 40k of what has the biggest creature or machine. And at the end of all of that, it would be comparing a Imperial class War Titan versus Malphite, a literal living magical mountain. Between these two gargantuan things, I would think that the War Titan would take the victory, since, again, they can shoot, bombard, throw bombs and stuff at a mountain. Like, it will take a while, but the thing is going to go down eventually. Now, if Malphite were to team up with something like Skarner, a creature of around the same size, they can both burrow underneath the ground, they can both travel to ambush something like a War Titan, but I can't see those two teaming up really quick, because again, in the world of Runeterra, even though they have plenty of means to defend themselves, they aren't really united as a whole world. And even if they are able to take down a War Titan, at that point the Imperium will just think, okay, well, this is a death world, it's too difficult to conquer on land, so we're gonna declare Exterminatus. And just destroy the planet from orbit. So at that point it gets pretty clear. There is nothing on the world of Runeterra that could face up against ginormous warships bombarding their planet from orbit. But you couldn't be further from the truth. Lore-wise, there was one character so massively overpowered that in terms of fiction that I have seen, there is nothing that can compare to his strength, aside from that Zeno character in Dragon Ball that can one-tap universes. But the character I am talking about is Aurelian Soul, the Star Dragon, a creature whose body exists of the stars, whose birth was the thing that created our universe. A creature so massively powerful that even the four gods of chaos could not stand against him, because they can only interact with what they are able to touch in the universe. But the universe is literally Aurelian's soul. So as long as he is able to protect Runeterra, which the people of Runeterra have means to contact him, have means to control him to some degree, they would be able to protect their world, no matter what the universe of 40k really throws at them. And if the world of League of Legends is ever able to get so technologically advanced by the use of hex tech, which already has proven to have instant teleportation, they can become one hell of a faction to fear if they ever join the 40k universe. Alright, thank you so much for watching the video. I haven't tried one of these in a while, so let me know if you're interested in seeing more videos like this, if you want more battles of 40k versus League of Legends, maybe a specific Space Marine chapter invading a specific region, or if you want to hear me yap about lore regardless, if you just want to know stuff. As of making this video, I am still underneath 1,000 subscribers, so it would mean a lot to me if you want to push that button and get me just a little bit closer to monetization. I also respond to every comment, so feel free to say hi. Oh, and there's this super important thing regarding the